He was kidnapped, tortured and held hostage for 15 months in Somalia. This week, Australian photojournalist Nigel Brennan spoke about his terrifying ordeal at a forum in Darwin. He's also been in the Territory sharing the lessons he's learned from his experience with doctors and health workers from the National Critical Care and Trauma Response Centre. Earlier this week, I spoke with Nigel Brennan about his capture and eventual release. 18 months ago, Australian photojournalist Nigel Brennan and Canadian reporter Amanda Lindout were finally freed after 462 days of captivity. Their ordeal began in 2008 when they travelled to Somalia to report on the food crisis in that country. After just 3 days, they were taken hostage.
I ask that our governments help us.
A few months later, they made a desperate bid to escape their captors.
We actually got out of the house and ran to the nearest mosque. And look, as we entered, just as we were entering the mosque, a warning shot was fired over our heads from our captors, who were about 10 seconds behind us. Our head guys basically pistol whipped me across the back of the head and neck. So I fell to the ground and was then kicked and punched and basically grabbed by my feet and dragged through the entire mosque and out into a courtyard. And look, yeah, believed within the next 60 seconds I was about to take a bullet to the head. Extremely surreal sort of situation, and was incredibly calm. I don't know, it was like an out-of-body experience, watching myself sort of being dragged to my death. And then was, I don't know, really thankful to finally be walked out of the gates of the mosque and to see Amanda in the back of a pickup truck, still alive.
You were held for 15 months. You were tortured during that time. You felt like your life was at risk. How did you cope during that time?
It was, for me, more trying to mentally keep my sanity, trying to keep my mind active. It was either sit or lie 24 hours a day. Basically weren't allowed outside. We're basically on a starvation diet and continually on tenterhooks, and in the pit of your stomach having that constant knot of fear of not sure what you were going to get from one day to the next.
There's footage of you pleading your case in front of a television camera, surrounded by gunmen. How does something like that change you?
Look, walking out into that courtyard and seeing those guys completely kitted up with guns and stuff like that, you know, I've seen enough videos that came out of Iraq in the second Iraq War where guys get beheaded and stuff like that. So making that video was, the first video was, you know, quite a lot of stress and anxiousness.
In hindsight, would you have done anything differently to avoid the situation that you got into?
Look, in hindsight, I probably could have done a lot more preparation. Should have told my family what I was doing, and probably some of the government officials or government departments what I was planning to do.
Being held in captivity for that long, what kind of lasting impacts does that have on yourself?
I don't know. At the end of the day, it was like, well, look, you were the one that put yourself in that position. You have no one else to blame but yourself. So, I don't know. Suck it up in some respects and get on with your life. You've lost 15 months. You can possibly lose another 15 if you wallow in self-pity. And I just wanted to move forward, really.
Is there anything positive that you can really draw out of this experience?
Oh, look, there's huge amounts. For me, and I think for my family as well. You know, that obviously a much more positive person, more compassionate, more understanding of people, and not as judgmental as I used to be.
You're now involved in training people who go to conflict zones like Somalia, journalists and health professionals like those here at the Trauma Centre. Yes. What do you tell them? Obviously give a quite in-depth sort of story of what I went through. I know on one of the courses recently, after I'd finished talking, one of the students on the course actually said, you know, after listening to his story, I have young kids. I don't know whether I want to put my family in that sort of situation. So, look, I just try and give them an overall view of what can happen, and the fact that I guess both journalists and humanitarian workers are now seen as targets. if they are facing a difficult situation, what's the best advice that you can give them?
Look, I'd say firstly, follow your gut instinct. If you're in a group of people and one person doesn't feel comfortable, then tell everyone and probably don't go, because gut instinct's an amazingly powerful thing.
And do you think you'll be heading back to a country like Somalia anytime soon?
I would love to continue doing my photojournalism, and would actually love to go to Afghanistan to try and embed with the Australian forces. And I guess having the support of an army there would be better than what I had in Somalia. So,
Nigel Brennan, thank you for talking to us.
Pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.